The Oklahoma City bombing was the first modern-day case of domestic terrorism in the United States. It was a terrorist attack on the Alfred P. Mariah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City on April 19, 1995, conducted by Terry Nichols and Timothy McVeigh. The bomb took 168 lives, including 19 children under the age of 6, and injured more than 680 people. The blast damaged 324 buildings within a 16-block radius, destroyed 86 cars, and shattered glass in 258 buildings nearby. The bomb was estimated to cause $652 million worth of damage. After Nichols and McVeigh parked a rental truck filled with explosives and jet fuel, each drove away in separate cars to detonate the bomb. Later that day, McVeigh was pulled over by an Oklahoma state trooper for driving without a license plate and arrested for unlawfully carrying a weapon. Using McVeigh's arrest, the FBI could link Terry Nichols and McVeigh to the bombing. In days, both men were arrested for an act of terrorism. The official investigation was called OK Bomb, which was the largest criminal investigation in American history. The FBI conducted 28,000 interviews, gathered 3.5 short tons of evidence, and collected nearly 1 billion pieces of information. Nichols and McVeigh were tried and convicted in 1997. McVeigh was executed by lethal injection on June 11, 2001, and Nichols was sentenced to a life in prison.
The Oklahoma City bombing was a monumental case in curtailing the rights granted to U.S. citizens by the American Constitution. After the attack in Oklahoma City, Congress changed the privileges of the writ of habeas corpus. The writ of habeas corpus means you have the body in Latin. It is a cornerstone in American law, making the judicial system unique from other nations. A prisoner can seek release by filing the writ of habeas corpus. It allowed for the challenging of criminal convictions. The prisoner then goes before a judge, and the court must prove that the inmate is being detained for legal error. This law allows the detainee to object to their imprisonment and seek freedom. However, in the following year after the terrorist attack, Congress passed the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Penalty Act. This act makes it much more difficult for criminals to seek federal relief. Cornell Law School states, substantively, it narrows the grounds on which successful habeas claims can be made, allowing claims only to succeed when the convictions were contrary to clearly established federal law or an unreasonable determination of the facts in light of evidence. By impeding the writ of habeas corpus, Congress greatly tampered with the civil rights granted to its American citizens.
Crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine.
In 2001, President George W. Bush signed the Patriot Act, which gave law enforcement broader authority to investigate and prosecute suspected terrorists. Now, that signing ceremony.
In response to the September 11th attacks, a new bill was created to allow law enforcement to investigate and prosecute suspected terrorists. The Patriot Act passed only 8 days after the terrorist strike on the World Trade Center. The massive law was passed so quickly and without the members of Congress truly knowing its meaning or implications. They had experienced severe pressure from the Bush administration to pass the law. Congress did not object as they feared being viewed as un-American. They would be permitting terrorists to attack the United States' innocent citizens. The Patriot Act now allowed for the expansion of law enforcement's power. The government gained the ability to search records including phone, internet history, financial, library, medical, and email records, and etc. The sneak and peek search warrants were another key component to the law, which enabled the government to search and seize property without the accused person knowing. It also permits for the surveillance and spying of the American citizens and potential terrorists. The conduction of intelligence searches is another privilege the government now possesses.
The raison d'etre of the Constitution is to protect citizens' rights from the federal government. But with the passing of the Patriot Act, the executive branch was given unbalanced power. The U.S. Patriot Act had significantly curtailed American citizens' civil rights, especially in the First, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments. The First Amendment protects the freedom of association. However, since the Patriot Act, the government has been allowed to observe political and religious organizations without probable cause. Freedom of speech is also protected under the First Amendment. However, the government is allowed to prosecute people that hold records, such as librarians, if they tell others that the government subpoenaed any data for a possible terrorism case. The Patriot Act also curtails the rights of the Fourth Amendment, which includes the freedom from unreasonable searches. However, from Section 213, which includes the sneak and peek provision, the government is allowed to search citizens' properties and can obtain any of their belongings without their knowledge and without a warrant or probable cause for terrorist cases. The Fifth Amendment rights are also curtailed, which include the right to a jury as well as the protection of property, but personal records and documents can now be used in cases. The Sixth Amendment includes the right to a speedy and public trial. However, the Patriot Act allows the government to prosecute American citizens immeasurably without the right to a trial. Another aspect of the Sixth Amendment is the right to legal representation. However, the government is now allowed to observe the interactions between attorneys and their clients, and even not allow accused citizens the right to a lawyer.
The Patriot Act was made for the government to know about terrorism before another attack took place on U.S. soil. The USA Patriot Act stands for Uniting and Strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. This law was created to allow the government to do four things, which include searching citizens' records and property as well as intelligence searches, including internet records and who citizens contact. Many American citizens that do not fully understand the implications of the Patriot Act and how it curtails our civil rights believe that if citizens don't have anything to hide, it can only be beneficial. However, this is not the case since so many of citizens' primary liberties are restricted for the price of security. As stated in the Patriot Act, all aspects of the intelligence community need to work together and share information in hopes of preventing terrorism. The Patriot Act has allowed racial profiling in America, especially for people who appear to be Muslim. The ignorance of the government led them to suspect Muslim Americans of terrorism since the 9/11 attacks were led by people connected to Al-Qaeda, an Islamic terrorist group. Allowing the government to search the personal records of American citizens thought to be terrorists without any probable cause led them to removing the accused terrorists from their homes.
In some cases, the CIA took suspected terrorists in the night and placed them on unmarked planes to another country or secret prison. This action is known as extraordinary rendition. In most cases, the accused terrorists would go to Guantanamo Bay, a small portion of Cuba that America owns. However, the people there are not subject to American laws or rights. These suspected terrorists were tortured so that the government could obtain information or a confession. They were brought out of the country because the government treated them in such a horrific way that our Constitution does not allow. Although America is considered a model country because of its rights permitted to its citizens, many of the actions of the government in places like Guantanamo Bay and extraordinary rendition are essentially un-American, breaking many of the laws to the government claims to promise to all citizens. Many of the Guantanamo Bay prisoners were tortured and confessed to their alleged crimes. However, there are still prisoners that remain in custody without knowing their suspected offense. Since so many of the prisoners' rights have been seriously restricted, their families have filed lawsuits in the United States demanding that the federal courts protect their civil rights. The families believe that since they are essentially on American soil, American laws and rights must protect them.
It is now my honor to sign into law the USA Patriot Act of 2001.
Monumental effect on civil rights. not just to affect non-terrorists, to affect non-terrorists. But I do think that taking away Americans' civil rights, locking people out without trials, spying on Americans, that may protect us. It's just going to make our country more constantly changing to protect all the men held tall with their chests in the air, with the courage and the blood and the fire in their stare. And it was a great morning, and they wondered how they would fare. To the old general told them to go home. What's the price of the rising city? When Osama bin Laden the others, and I have discovered that this fight is not worth fighting. And I've seen a mother, and I will to follow me where I'm going. Government security effort and the Patriot Act has included take a shower and shine your shoes. You got no time to lose. You are young and you must be living. What was the cost to our country? Take a shower and shine your shoes. You got no time to lose. You are young and you must be living. Go now, you are forgiven. He did succeed.
In conclusion, the solution to lessen terrorist effects at home is ensuring that civil rights are protected. As of today, the U.S. Patriot Act allows the government to perform sneak and peeks and informational searches, such as medical records, phone records, internet searches, library searches, and monitor who citizens contact. The Patriot Act violates the basic and fundamental rights in the Constitution. Although there are many flaws in the Patriot Act that must be revised, Barry Schwartz claims it has prevented approximately 40 possible terrorist attacks from occurring. For example, Section 213, the sneak and peek provision, should be altered so that the government must obtain a public warrant with evidence as well as probable cause and follow the standard laws for search and seizure rather than working through secret courts and obtaining an undisclosed warrant, which does not allow the suspected terrorist to have any knowledge of the search. Section 215, which allows the government to access information and records on suspected terrorists, must be revised to allow the government to access this type of information with only concrete evidence and probable cause. By allowing the fundamental rights of American citizens to be violated, the American government has become corrupt. In order to truly protect American citizens, the government must be honest about its intentions and actions as it attempts to prevent terrorist attacks.
Thanks to provisions in the Patriot Act, the government can get information you thought was private without your knowledge or consent. Now there's a push to make these powers permanent, and that could leave any one of us exposed. Amend the Patriot Act. We deserve to be both safe and free.